Welcome to the weekly power rankings and one of the most wide open NBA seasons in recent memory. The MVP trophy is wide open. The Western Conference is wide open. Even the Eastern Conference is wide open because I don't think the Bucks are a true superpower compared to teams that we've seen in the past of the LeBron Jameses and the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers of Kobe and Shaq. These Bucks are beatable, but we will hop in to the power rankings and start at the bottom of the list at this tier of tanking for Victor Wembanyama, maybe Scoot Henderson, maybe Brandon Miller, maybe Amen Thompson, but you got the Detroit Pistons here at 30. Worst team in the NBA as far as records go. I like some of the growth that I've seen from Jaden Ivey. I'm still intrigued by what James Wiseman could theoretically, potentially offer. They have a bona fide starting center already in Jalen Duren. Now, if either Marvin Bagley, unlikely, or James Wiseman, possibly, turn into a stud, they could have a really fun roster. Maybe they get Vic, maybe they get Scoot, maybe they get Miller, whatever. The season of losing is almost over and Cade Cunningham will be coming back soon. Up to 29 is the San Antonio Spurs, and I could have put the Rockets here. It's really just it's a toss-up, a coin flip, but Greg Popovich has perfected the good loss this entire season. The Spurs remain competitive in almost every single game, and then they play Dominic Barlow a few too many minutes. He makes a couple boneheaded mistakes, and they go on to lose, which is really what you want when you're a San Antonio Spurs fan right now, finally entering the latter stages of this year's failure of a season or success, depending on how you look at it. At 28 is the Houston Rockets, and I'm just hyped to see Jabari Smith's development throughout the season, see that he's playing a little bit better. Kevin Porter Jr. is back, and he's a bucket. I'm even seeing some good Jalen Green plays as well. So good for the Rockets. They're going to be here at 28th, and that is the bottom of this tier, or I guess the top of this tier of teams that are tanking. Up next, we have the Charlotte Hornets tier, because the Charlotte Hornets are on a tier of their own of a team that isn't tanking, and yet they are. I guess theoretically now they're kind of taking, they're running a G League unit. They've got like Bryce McGowans and James Bouknight and JT Thor getting extended minutes, so it is what it is. But they still have 26 wins on the seasons because Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward played a lot. Remember, was it Mason Plumlee was their former center? He played way too much as well. But honestly, shout out to the Hornets and Steve Clifford. He's got these guys actually playing pretty tough defensively. They've won a couple games, thrown a wrench into a lot of what's going on here in the Western Conference play-in. And they're locked into the 4th seed, so they can't go any lower if they lose. They can't go any higher if they win, so they're playing with house money at this point. How high is their ceiling with Steve Clifford at the helm? I'm not really sure, but they've done a serviceable job and an awful job at the same time of tanking while developing their guys. And also, there's been some James Bouknight sightings. Don't forget, he was a lottery pick. I think number 10, possibly number 11 overall. Serious issues with alcohol, possibly drugs. Played horrible, but there is potential there for him to be a good NBA player. Hopefully something will come of that, and that is the end of the Hornets tier, because this is the tier of teams that are for the most part given up. At 26 is the Portland Trailblazers, and I know they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's more of a testament to how horrible the Minnesota Timberwolves are, because they're literally playing rotations of Shaquille Harrison, who's still in the league, John Butler, who the f is that, Kevin Knox, yikes, Jonathan Williams, what is that name? And Jabari Walker. What is this? So with the season over, it's time to start looking at the young guys moving into next season for this Blazers squad. Keon Johnson looks okay, not bad, not terrible, not great. Just kind of a solid player that might be able to develop into something at some point. Shaedon Sharpe looks like a future star. Jabari Walker looks like a nice piece they'll have in the future. Cam Reddish might be playable on a winning team. Nas Little might stick around for another season, kind of Dorian Finney-Smith-ish in his contributions to the team. I still don't know who is John Butler Jr. and Jonathan Williams. Good Lord, but hey, they beat the Timberwolves, so credit where credit is due. This team is really just looking towards next season, and I wonder what they're going to do with the Damian Lillard contract. As for the Jazz here at 25, they're going to be falling down 2 spots because they keep trotting out G Leaguers and players who are out of this league. Luka Samanic is now their latest signing to go along with Chris Dunn. And God, who else is on this Jazz squad? Let's just look at their roster. I'm looking at it. They got Ochai Agbaji, obviously. Udoka Azubuike still on the team. Jarrell Brantley came in for like 2 games. Jordan Clarkson's been out. Chris Dunn was out of the league. Simone Fontecchio is not great. Rudy Gay should probably be out of the league. Talen Horton-Tucker, super young. Damian Jones is horrible. Johnny Juzang, I think he's a G Leaguer right now, but he's making minutes for the team, which is whatever. Walker Kessler, he's out with injury. Lauri Markkanen in and out. Kelly Olynyk, Micah Potter, I don't even know who you are. Luka Samanic, we just talked about Colin Sexton out, and Juan Toscano Anderson. Probably not long for this league with how his three-pointer has completely fallen off. But like I say, from the beginning of the season, I have Will Hardy as my coach of the year because these guys still play hard regardless of who is out there. This team is probably a 10-win team with the players that are on the roster at this point, playing Jordan Clarkson out, Colin Sexton out, Lauri Markkanen in and out. Moving on to the Wizards at 24th. It's their offensive system is so awful. It's painful to watch their basketball game. So if they aren't playing off Kristaps Porzingis post-ups, or Bradley Beal putting his head down and driving hard to the paint, or Kyle Kuzma jacking up ridiculous shots, their players only know how to pass the ball around the perimeter and be useless the entire possession for 20 seconds and then put up a bad shot. It's doubly bad because about half of the time they're more talented to the teams that they're playing, but they still lose because of everything wrong with the Wizards organization. Sitting here at 24th. At 23rd is the Indiana Pacers, coming down a spot. They've just been really unimpressive. They've been kind of trying to tank, it feels like, at this point. They've been sitting Tyrese Halliburton a lot of games. They're still a really good young team, so guys like Andrew Nembhard step up for the team, but they're really looking on to next season after that Tyrese Halliburton injury about halfway through the season. And I have the Magic jumping up 3 spots. They've been starting to win games. They're making a push for that final play-in seed, maybe get some actual postseason basketball under their belts, and that'll be good experience for the guys because they've been really losing for the last 5 years, it feels like. And Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., Markelle Fultz playing playoff basketball sounds like a lot of fun to me. Next up is the Mavericks, and they're still in free fall. They don't fall down any spots as far as the power rankings are concerned, but they're now in this tier of teams that have given up because they are horrible. Everything about this is when the Heat score in bunches on you, you know that your team is bad defensively. Luka is literally the worst defender I've ever seen. At least Nikola Jokic tries. Luka doesn't even try. There's guys like Kyle Anderson who blow right by Luka Doncic's defense or lack thereof because he does not give a damn. Jason Kidd doesn't know how to use any player. He just knows the heliocentric James Harden on the Rockets system where you give him the ball and the other team's either going to throw double team at you and you pass to the open man, or you let your guy create. That is the whole offense, and it's ugly, pathetic to watch. Their defense is horrible. They traded away their only good big wing defender in Dorian Finney-Smith, and now they have no centers. They have no big wing defenders other than, I guess, Maxi Kleber. It's so bad. And now Jason Kidd is using Kyrie Irving as a spot-up corner three-point shooter, or better known as a floor spacer. I'm so done with this Mavericks team. In another universe, they're great. Imagine if they kept Jalen Brunson, who turned into what he is, and you still have Luka, Jaden Hardy develops, and do the Kyrie Irving trade still, or trade Kyrie Irving for somebody, an improvement on Christian Wood. Just there's so many different ways that this Mavericks season could have gone good, and they went F's across the board in every single aspect: coaching, roster construction, roster management, player management. There's not a single good thing to take away from this season other than maybe they'll get a little luck in the lottery and get a high draft pick and hope that Luka and Kyrie stick around and you can build around them, because that is the bed that you have made. And that is the end of the teams that have given up. And we're going to be talking about the play-in tier. I normally call this the WTF is the NBA tier because WTF is the NBA this season, but all of these teams are competing for either the 11th seed or the 4th seed. It is a head-scratching season. Starting with the Thunder, and like I've said at the beginning, they're playing with house money, so win, lose, it doesn't really matter for the Thunder right now. They're still missing a big rim protector. Obviously, a healthy Chet Holmgren would go a long way to fixing that. I think if they get a good backup center like a Jakob Poeltl in free agency, that'll be huge for them. Get a little bit more shooting, add another year of experience under their belt. We just need Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to stay healthy because he's proven that he has some issues staying healthy, playing not even 82 games, playing 70 games, playing 60 games. He seems to always have some sort of injury, especially around the end of the season. Like I said, though, they're playing with house money, and it looks like they're going to be taking the 10th seed unless some crazy, unlikely thing happens between either the Timberwolves or the Mavericks. The Thunder look to be in a good spot right now. At number 19 is the Nets. They're falling down a little bit. It feels like they're a more advanced edition of the Utah Jazz. There's not a lot of talent. Mikal Bridges has been incredible, obviously. He's putting up KD numbers, but there's no expectations for this team other than play hard, win a couple games, lose a couple games, and that's really about it. It's going to be interesting to see what this team looks like next season. At 18th is the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Oof, what a season. Not just what a team, what a season this has been. They're the consistently most inconsistent team I have ever seen. Right now, apparently they're dealing with the flu that is team-wide. It's affecting Anthony Edwards and some of the bench players, Torian Prince, which could explain some of the bad play recently. And it could explain them losing to the lowly Portland Trailblazers at home. But this has been an entire year of ups and downs, injuries and returns. Nothing has been steady. Nothing has come easy for this team. Naz Reid has now broken his wrist and he's gone for possibly the entire season, maybe the playoff run that they go on, possibly his entire career as a Timberwolf because he's a free agent in this offseason. And he's a good player, man. I hope he gets paid because he was a pivotal key to this team staying afloat while Karl Towns was out with injury. And speaking of Cat, he's finally back. And then we all remembered why he's so frustrating to watch because theoretically, he has the talent to be one of the best players in the NBA. He's very Anthony Davis-ish, but in a different way of dominance because he's a sharpshooter. But he just, oh my God, his basketball IQ, his effort night in and night out is just not there. If you talk about it in 2K ratings, he's like an 85 overall who has the potential to be a 99 if he wants to be. But this is one of those guys that just make you want to punch the wall because they have all this potential in the world, but they just don't care. They're these millionaires putting a ball inside of a circle and getting paid to do so. And you just wish that Karl would live up to that potential that he has. He was taken #1 overall for a reason. At 17th is the 500 Hawks. They're about as 500 as 500 gets. We kind of talked about them as much as I possibly could. DeAndre Hunter disappointing. John Collins needs to go to a new change of scenery. Bogdanovich is old and seemingly inconsistent. This team is what this team is. And it kind of feels like they're in a place that's stuck for mediocrity for the foreseeable future. Unless something drastic happens, DeJounte Murray turns out wasn't that dude. Surprise. At number 16 is the Bulls, jumping up 4 spots. They are winning games. They are ready to make the play-in tournament. Can you believe that the Bulls might be good? It's just so funny. They have the best wins and the worst losses of the season. They'll beat like the Bucks or the 76ers or the Celtics by 20, and then they'll lose to the Wizards by 20. This team, they're a joy to watch in a frustrating way. At the same time, it looks like they finally figured out Lonzo Ball isn't going to come back. They need to injury manage Alex Caruso. Looks like they have a good guard rotation with Patrick Beverley and Ayo Dosunmu stepping up. And it's going to be a disappointing playoff exit. But at least they're going to make the playoffs this time around because it looked like they were going to be a bottom 5 team for the majority of this season. And the Raptors going to be jumping up 4 spots as well. After the Jakob Poeltl trade, they've just been an above 500 team. Very good to see. Scotty Barnes has been playing well. Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet are so inconsistent. One night they're going to drop 30, 12, and 10. The next night they're going to drop 12 points on 17 shots and have like 8 turnovers. The Raptors are in kind of a bad spot, if I'm being completely honest. But this is the bed that they wanted to make. They gave it all up to make the play-in tournament, and here you are. 39 and 39, Toronto. Next up is the Pelicans, who have started to ball out. I buried them, man. I thought they were dead and over. This team had no chance. They lost like 15 games in a row. Brandon Ingram in and out with injuries again. Obviously Zion. Now things are starting to look a little bit better. That Brandon Ingram versus Kawhi Leonard matchup was legendary. They were just going mano a mano, haymakers at each other, basket for basket, bucket for bucket. Brandon Ingram is a tough shot maker. And if Zion comes back, I know we always say this, but if Zion comes back, I'm just saying this West is wide open. And if Zion comes back when he was healthy, they were the best team in the Western Conference. Just throwing it out there. At number 13 is the Clippers, coming down a few spots. And I made a joke about this before. Kawhi Leonard is going to load manage in-game and only play 1 or 2 quarters. It actually happened. What? I didn't even think it was possible to load manage in a game, but against the Grizzlies, I think they were winning by like 15 or something at halftime. They just sat Kawhi for the entire second half and said, oh, we're going to go play the Pelicans instead. And now you lost a game to the Grizzlies. You lost to the Pelicans, and nothing is going right for this team. They always seem to be the losers of important games throughout the season, like against the Kings when they scored 900 points. They lose to the Grizzlies. They lose great matchups. They lose in game winners. It feels like everything that could go wrong with this Clippers squad has gone wrong. So let's do this again. Without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, Clippers are probably the 11 seed. With both playing healthy, they're the 2 seed. With just Paul George, they're the 8 seed. And now, surprisingly, with Kawhi and no Paul George, man, maybe they're a 5 seed. I don't really know what seed they are if Kawhi literally plays half games, but I'll have to figure that out and put that into my equation and keep you posted. But as always, this team can be a threat when healthy and everybody's playing good and Ty Lue's the head coach and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. But the window is closing on this team and it's closing fast. I think their chance to win has come and gone because they just continue to disappoint. Moving on to the Heat, 41-37, come down 2 spots just because there's teams that are better than them. If the Heat wanted to make any noise in the playoffs, they're going to have to rely on Victor Oladipo a lot because Jimmy Butler's going to get his. Tyler Hero's going to be the only guy who can consistently shoot. Bam will play hard, and then the rest of the guys are undrafted guys who play above their expectations but really suck. So Victor Oladipo's going to have to be the spark plug that ignites this team off the bench, and I just don't think he's reliable enough at this stage in his career to put them over the top. I think it's going to be a disappointing exit for the Heat. Moving on to the Golden State Warriors, 41-38. When they're playing at home, they're great. When they're playing away, they suck, and there's no other way around it. 10th is the Lakers, and I've been on this train ever since the trade deadline. They've just been having monstrous performances. I think AD had like a 40-14 game. LeBron James is back. He looks mostly healthy, and they just have a really deep squad. D'Angelo Russell gives them buckets. Jared Vanderbilt gives them energy. Rui Hachimura is a great two-way player for them right now. Malik Beasley, the shot isn't falling, but I guarantee you when the playoffs come around, he's going to make buckets for you, and they have a potential possibility of being like the 5 seed in the West right now. The Lakers are starting to look scary, and all things being equal, I've got a Lakers-Kings Western Conference Finals just because of how good the Kings have been consistently and how good the Lakers look right now. And that is the end of the tier of this play-in tournament. It's a fun one. It's a frustrating one, and it makes you say, what's wrong with the NBA these days? There's so many problems with it. But next up is the tier of teams that are above the play-in, but honestly, I don't even know where they really belong because any one of these teams can be a first-round exit. And you look at it, and you'd say, yeah, that feels about right. Either that, or they could win the whole damn thing, and you go, yeah, that looks about right. This is such a head-scratching season, but we're going to start with the number 9 seed, and that's the New York Knicks. They're only falling down 1 spot because the Suns are jumping up. They're on a win streak. It's nothing that they've done specifically. They just don't have that Kevin Durant upside. And it's a tough break on the ankle sprain for Julius Randle. I'm not sure if he's going to be gone for the entire first round, but I think he'll find his way back on the court. He's a dog. And as long as Jalen Brunson is playing, they're going to be a good basketball team. And they're also sneakily deep. They got Obi Toppin already. They got a good center position with Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein. And they can go small with Quentin Grimes and even Evan Fournier still waiting to get some minutes. So I'm not worried about the depth of this Knicks team. I'm not worried because Jalen Brunson is the number 1. And I'm not worried because I think Jules will be back soon. At number 8 is the Phoenix Suns, and I'm not ready to put them at the number 1 or number 2 seed just yet. I need to see them play. I need to see them stay healthy. But as with basically every team in this tier, they have the potential to win it all. They just have to figure out a way to stay healthy. Cliff Paul, at 49 years old, needs to figure out how to stay on the court. Devin Booker, with 60-year-old hamstrings, needs to figure out how to stay on the court. DeAndre Ayton needs to figure out how to play hard. And, of course, Kevin Durant. But the Suns, they're starting to look scary again. At number 7 is the Denver Nuggets. No movement for them. I've never bought into this Nuggets squad, man. When Nikola Jokic is out, they are horrible. Jamal Murray, all things being equal, has been really disappointing this season. Michael Porter Jr., all things being equal, hasn't had enough touches and enough shots. And all things being equal, I think Mike Malone is a bad coach. I don't know how to approach this problem, but they're, the number 1 seed in the Western Conference in spite of him. At number 6 is the Grizzlies. No movement for them as well. John Moran is back. They play good. They're deep. Desmond Bane is healthy. Waiting on Steven Adams to come back. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, if not leader, if not winner. And the rest of the team is pretty good. I'm not, putting them at number 1 because I still have my questions about Ja being the number 1 option. But the Grizzlies are what the Grizzlies are, sitting at 6. And at number 5 is the Sacramento Kings. And they've just been a really consistent team. So they don't have the Ja Morant issue of pointing guns at little kids. They don't have the Nikola Jokic issue of he can't guard a parked car. They don't have the Lakers issue of injuries. They don't have the Warriors issue of really being bad at home and away. So, the Kings are sitting here at 5th just waiting to take off. As always, their top end potential isn't great, and they're not going to be the benefit of any whistles ever as far as I'm concerned. But hey, man, like I said, the Kings, I think, are going to make the Western Conference Finals this year. Take note, the Kings are advancing to the finals. You heard it here first. At number 4 is the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're going to be falling down a spot. I may have put them up too high, but I don't know who to put ahead of them. I think they could theoretically beat the other, we'll say, 26 teams in the NBA in a head-to-head matchup, and then they'll lose to the Celtics, 76ers, and Bucks in 7. If the seedings hold though, I'm worried a little bit on this Cavs-Knicks matchup as far as the Cavs side is concerned. They don't match up too well versus a very physical Knicks team, and if Jared Allen is out, their defense is an issue. He is their anchor. He's an all-star for a reason, and he's a damn good player, and then Evan Mobley plays well off him. If Evan Mobley is the lone starting center, he's still too young. He doesn't have the strength and the versatility as a defensive anchor compared to what Jared Allen brings you. And then if Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell are out, their offense really struggles. So they're going to need all their guys healthy and a productive bench unit of Dean Wade and Lamar Stevens and Isaac Okoro and Karis LeVert to win games. It's not impossible, but it's not great. If they were in the West, man, they'd be the #1 seed clear and easy. But they're in the East, and the East is pretty menacing this season. At number 3 is the Boston Celtics, jumping up a spot. I know they had that horrible loss to the Washington Wizards, but they're starting to roll, dealing with some drama with Jaylen Brown. I'm just going to look past it at this point. I think they're a pretty good team with the potential to make the finals yet again. A few things has to go their way, and they have to start hitting on all cylinders. And at number 2 is the Philadelphia 76ers. And they're just really letting up on the gas pedal at this point to close out the season because James Harden is dealing with, I think, a hamstring or a knee or something. Joel Embiid is dealing with the calf strain. After looking like the best team in the NBA for a good month or so, they've been really unimpressive to end this stretch. They lost horribly to the Bucks. They're now locked in at the number 3 seed and the MVP trophy. But look, at the end of the day, stay healthy, win the championship. All is going to be forgiven. Winning cures everything. I'm just going to be forever worried about Doc Rivers and how bad he's going to hurt this team come playoff time. And let's be honest here, the Sixers are kind of sputtering into the playoffs. Not going to be a good look, and they're probably going to have to take on the Boston Celtics in the second round. And at number 1, the Bucks are in their own tier. I think Drew Holiday right now has replaced Chris Middleton as the number 2. He is having an unreal, should be on the all-NBA team type of season. Drew has been great. Giannis has been Giannis. Brook Lopez, I mean, he just stepped into the fountain of youth, and this Bucks team is just clicking on all cylinders. They're just a head and shoulder above everybody else right now. And that is going to do it for this week's Power Rankings. A weird NBA season, so these are some weird Power Rankings. Let me know what your thoughts are, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I'll catch you in the next one.